Hey there, and welcome back to another deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're tackling a topic that we know is, well, top of mind for many of you.
Mm.
Getting into a master's program.
Mm.
Specifically, we've got this fantastic guide. It's really geared towards international students,
Mm.
maybe like yourself, aiming to study in New Zealand for postgraduate work.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So think of this as your personal walkthrough. We're going to pull out the essential steps you absolutely need to know.
Exactly. And what's really helpful about this guide, I think, is how it breaks down what can feel like a really complex process, makes it seem much more manageable, stage by stage.
Right.
We'll highlight those core steps, give you a clearer picture. And the guide, it specifically mentions some top universities like University of Auckland, Victoria University of Wellington.
Otago too, right?
University of Otago, yeah. Known for strong master's programs in loads of fields: business, engineering, computer science, even environmental studies. Lots of choice.
Okay, so let's imagine you're listening and you're just starting out. Where do you begin? The very first thing this guide points to, it might seem obvious, but it's critical, is figuring out the right program for you.
Absolutely fundamental.
It really hammers home that your choice here should be driven by, well, where you see your career heading.
Yeah, not just picking a name that sounds good.
Exactly. It's about finding that specific master's that aligns with your, long-term professional goals.
And what's interesting there at that first stage is the level of detail the guide encourages. It points out that even in the same general field, say engineering,
Right.
the master's programs at different NZ universities can vary quite a bit.
How so?
Well, things like the specific courses you take, the research interests of the faculty who you might work with, even the labs or facilities available.
Ah, okay. Makes sense.
And the guide also suggests, quite practically, looking at university rankings and their global reputation, specifically in your area, as a kind of benchmark.
That's smart. You want to make sure the effort you put in now leads to the outcomes you're actually hoping for later on. Okay, so you've got a few programs in mind. What does the guide say comes next? How do you know if they're even an option?
The next logical step, according to this guide, is diving into the eligibility and the specific requirements for those programs you've shortlisted.
Right, the nitty-gritty.
This is where you really need to pay close attention. The baseline requirement typically is a bachelor's degree or an equivalent qualification from your home country.
And it's not just having the degree, is it? I think the guide mentions GPA too.
Absolutely. There can often be minimum GPA requirements. And beyond that, the guide really emphasizes standardized tests, especially, exactly, English language proficiency tests like IELTS or TOEFL. If English isn't your first language, you'll almost certainly need to prove your skills with one of those.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is the GRE is also mentioned. It might be required for certain programs, which shows that the academic hurdles can differ depending on the field or even the department.
So definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Not at all.
And the guide has a really important reminder here. Listen up, folks. Double, even triple check all the prerequisites for each program you're keen on.
Crucial advice.
Because, beyond the usual academics and language tests, some programs might want relevant work experience. Or you might need to write up a research proposal about what you plan to study.
Or even do an interview, potentially.
Right. So it really pushes you to be thorough in your research, doesn't it?
Yeah.
First, find programs that interest you generally. Then do that deep dive into the specific criteria for each one.
Precisely. It encourages a layered approach.
Okay, done the homework, feeling good about meeting the initial criteria. What does the guide tell us to focus on next? Getting the application together.
You got it. Once you're confident about eligibility, the guide moves us to a really critical phase: preparing your application documents.
This is where the details matter, I bet.
Meticulousness really pays off here. The guide lists the usual suspects: your official academic transcripts,
Got those?
your CV or resume showing your experience, that proof of English proficiency we just talked about,
Okay.
a compelling statement of purpose, why this program, and those vital letters of recommendation.
Okay, the standard package. What's a key thing for international students here?
Well, what's interesting is the guides focus on the practical side. Like, if your documents aren't originally in English,
Translation needed.
yep, they'll need official translations. Plus, it stresses paying close attention to specific formatting guidelines each university might have. You don't want your application held up over something small like that.
Good point. Easy to overlook.
And depending on your field, say, architecture or art, the guide mentions, you might also need a portfolio, showing samples of your work.
Ah, right. Makes sense for creative fields. And what about, oh, the money part, the application fee?
Yes. An easy detail to forget, but important for planning. The guide reminds you each uni has its own fee, so you need to budget for that. But on a more positive note, it also mentions looking into potential fee waivers or scholarships. Always worth checking those out to ease the financial side.
For sure. And that application fee is just the start, isn't it? It sort of nudges you to think early about the bigger picture tuition, living costs in New Zealand.
Exactly. It's all part of the broader financial planning for studying overseas.
All right, documents are gathered, maybe translated, finances considered. What's the next step in the guide? Hitting submit.
Pretty much. The next stage is actually submitting that application. And no surprise, really, New Zealand universities mostly use online application portals.
Standard stuff these days.
Yeah. So the guide advises creating your account on each portal, filling everything in accurately and completely, and then carefully uploading all those documents you've prepared.
Carefully sounds like the key word there.
Absolutely. The guide subtly emphasizes reviewing every single detail before you click submit. A small mistake, a missing document. It can cause delays or worse.
Ouch. Okay. And what about timing? When should you apply, does the guide say?
Timing is really critical. The guide highlights that some unis have rolling admissions they review as applications come in. Others have fixed deadlines, especially common for international students.
So plan ahead.
Definitely. The crucial advice is apply well in advance of when you want to start. The guide really stresses not leaving it to the last minute.
Yeah, that makes sense. Gives you some breathing room if any issues pop up.
Oh.
Okay, application submitted. Now the waiting game begins, right? What happens next, according to the guide?
Yep, time for a little patience. Our guide says if you're successful, fingers crossed, you'll get an official offer letter from the university.
Ooh.
Definitely a moment to celebrate. But for international students, the journey isn't over. The next vital step is the student visa application.
Ah, yes, the visa.
The guide outlines the key things you'll need. Proof you've been accepted, that offer letter. Evidence you have enough money for tuition and living costs.
Proof of funds.
And confirmation you've got adequate health insurance.
So the offer letter is crucial for the visa then?
Exactly. They're tightly linked. The offer letter is a key document for your visa application. And the guide rightly points out the visa process itself can take a fair bit of time.
Right, so start early.
Start as soon as you get your offer. And keep all those visa documents super organized. It's absolutely crucial for a smooth transition.
Okay, visa approved, getting exciting now. What's the final stage the guide covers? Packing bags.
Almost. Once the visa's sorted, the last part of the guide focuses on prepping for your actual arrival in New Zealand.
The practical stuff.
Yeah, booking flights, finding accommodation, could be university halls or private housing, and maybe doing a bit of reading up on New Zealand's culture and laws.
Good idea. What else helps international students settle in?
The guide smartly highlights university orientation programs. They're specifically for international students.
Those are great.
Fantastic opportunity, yeah. Get familiar with the campus, resources, but also meet other students from all over the world who are in the same boat. And beyond that, the guide mentions those practical arrival tasks. Setting up a local bank account, getting a NZ SIM card for your phone, figuring out transport from the airport.
Small things, but essential.
Totally. They make settling in much smoother.
So just to quickly recap, based on this guide for getting your master's in New Zealand, we've gone through researching your program, checking you qualify, carefully prepping all your documents, navigating the online application,
And waiting patiently.
waiting for that offer, then tackling the important visa application, and finally getting ready for your journey and arrival.
It really does lay out a clear roadmap. And it's important to remember, like the guide suggests, even though it looks like a lot,
It does.
each step is manageable if you take it one at a time. Breaking it down like this makes it feel much less daunting.
Absolutely. And ultimately, as this guide really underscores, doing your master's is a significant investment in your future, isn't it? It can open up amazing opportunities.
It really can. Which leads to a final thought for you listening. Think about this whole step-by-step process. It's not just a checklist, is it? It's kind of the first chapter of your big adventure, academic, professional, personal, in a new country. So maybe ask yourself, which of these stages do you think will need the most proactive planning from your side?
Good question to ponder. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the master's admission process for New Zealand. We really hope this has shed some light on a path ahead for you.
Hope it was helpful.
We'll be back with more insights to fuel your learning journey next time. And hey, if you found this useful, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future deep dives.
Yeah, subscribe.
Plus, listening to us is a pretty decent way to keep sharpening those English language skills too.
Absolutely. Win-win.
See you next time.